listeners and book enthusiasts. Welcome to Reader's Magnet featured author interview. I am Trish, and I'll be your host for today's session. We are currently live in Reader's Magnet Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube page. And if you don't want to miss any helpful and interesting insights about our authors and their books, make sure to hit subscribe and enjoy the rest of the show. Today, I'm very elated to meet and greet our featured author who will delightfully share all of his life wisdom, lesson, and triumphs through his material. Let's welcome the author of the Thrifty Thoughts for the Day, the ever so noble, the man of God, Dr. Gentre Garmon. Hey, Dr. Garmon, welcome to the show.
Good evening, or good afternoon, or good day. Probably
Hi.
good day would be the best way to handle this to cover the various territories that we're dealing with.
Absolutely.
Thank
Good.
you for the introduction.
No problem. No problem. Now, welcome to the show, Dr. Garmon. And can we start by having us get to know you first as an author or as an individual, please?
Well, yes, I was thinking about it, and I actually drew upon my early experiences as a child.
Okay.
I recall getting a library card early, very early in my elementary school years. And I would go about 3 blocks to the library, and I would take out several books, usually the non-fiction, historical books. And I
Right.
would read at least one a week. And I would ponder over what I've read and how I might have lived during those times and how I might have responded in ways that the author kind of characterized what he was attempting or she was attempting to bring forth to the audience. Going from there, I also was an early writer. Of course, in that day, we had to write. We had penmanship classes. I was talking with one of my high school mates, and we were talking about how that academic ritual is no longer something that is heralded. But we had to write. We had penmanship classes, and at that time we were talking about actually using ink or quills that we would put in ink wells when the teacher would look for the best kind of written response. But I was a writer early, and so I did not, of course, really anticipate this particular day. But I have to go back and look and draw upon what, as I said, those early experiences. I had to write very often in class. Also, in my church, I just thought about it the other day. The pastor, who was an esteemed gentleman, but who did not graduate from high school, but was well respected. I remember talking about my pastor to my 4th grade teacher, and she asked who it was. I think we were talking about Joe Lewis at the time. And I said, well, I know his second cousin. That was my pastor, Pastor Terrell. He actually, as I was in high school, I didn't ask for this, but he actually had me to write papers and then speak them out in before the audience, the church audience. That was way back. And so I did that. And also, he had me to be a part of the Sunday morning program, that radio program that was broadcast before the actual service. But you wouldn't know anything about Niagara Falls. But it was actually, it came out of Niagara Falls from Buffalo. And so I would do the introduction to broadcast, and I would give the announcements. And I really only thought about that a little bit when I was a freshman in college, and one of my fellow students mentioned that she had heard me, but she had never seen me. When she heard my voice, she said, I've heard you on radio. And at that time, it kind of rang a bell. So drawing upon all that, we're coming to this point. Now,
Right.
quite continuously, grammar school, high school, and college. Talking about three times. High school, three levels of college. So I'm not unfamiliar to writing, but this particular effort is something that has come to pass, I believe, because of all of these earlier
Mm-hmm.
experience reading and writing, putting something together that I believe the people would uh, be satisfied with or would find some interest in. Basically, that's how I believe all this has come to this point. There are some other things
Right.
that I might not even be aware of, but I remember those things that I pondered
Mm-hmm.
over what I read and also what I have written. I've written quite a bit. It just happens that this has been put into this format. But
Yeah.
yeah, I write every week. Every week,
Ooh.
I've been doing this for over 35, over 40 years, in fact. Every
Ooh.
week I write regarding a sermon or something of that nature.
Fascinating. Fascinating. Well, thank you for giving us a flashback about your experiences that really made you become a published author, Dr. Gantre. Now, can you show us a copy of your book, Thrifty Thoughts for the Day, please? There
Can
you
you see
have it.
it? 50 fonts for the day. Can you see it?
Yes, we can definitely see it.
Okay.
Now, can you tell us how were you inspired to write this book, sir?
I was inspired to write it because of the unseen hand of God.
Mm.
There were some things that I looked upon in nature during my walks, during my travels. Uh, I am still a swimmer. I still swim. I was on a swimming team uh,
Mm-hmm.
in high school, but I still swim. I've swum in the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, way out in the ocean. Gotten off a boat, and then those who could swim out. And I look at all of the beauty, all of the extravagant uh, supply of artistic, fabulous,
Mm.
embellishment of this earth coming from Almighty God. So I thought that it would be just a wonderful thing to relate some of what I have gathered from God Himself. I was inspired by His Spirit to put together some thought processes, some things that people could read. Wouldn't have to be a scholar, but just read and then have the opportunity to address what they've read and to assess and critique the
Mm-hmm.
information. So I was really inspired to do it because I saw that the time had come. That's really what. And now that the time has come, I'm
Mm-hmm.
inspired to do more and
Wow.
to increase this effort. I have much to say, and because what I say cannot always be obtained, the book can actually express some of the things that I wish to say and some of my thoughts. I believe we need to
Mm.
think more. See, I
Right.
believe in thinking, pondering. Not all, you can do all this by walking when you're walking. Actually, you don't have to just
Mm-hmm.
sit in the seat, but there should be more time given to pondering and meditating upon the things of life
Absolutely.
and one's own life. So I was personally inspired by the hand of God to put together this work that I was interested in, and I believe that there are others. See, uh, we're all unique, but we share in our uniqueness interests that others may have, and then what I might have to say might not be expressed by another individual in the same way. You see.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That is a wisdom right there. Is there anything you can tell us from your life's experiences, sir, that you feel had a bearing on your bringing to, to book to print? This book to print. I'm sorry.
Well, yes. I have been involved in a lot of youthful activities. I
Mm-hmm.
was in the Boy Scouts in an early age. I traveled from
Okay.
Buffalo uh, through uh, the generosity of my uncle, who's a World War II veteran. I didn't have that kind of money. My family didn't. But there was what they call a national jamboree that was held in
Mm-hmm.
Santa Ana, California. I'm sure you're familiar with Santa Ana. And so we traveled by train. I was in the eighth grade at the time, seventh, eighth grade, all the way across Canada, all the provinces, all the way to Vancouver and down through, Washington, Oregon, and all the way to Los Angeles. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I saw, the beauty in Canada. I mean, just magnificent. But in Santa Ana, we did not have amenities. See, because at that time, many of the leaders were World War II veterans. And so we had sleeping bags. That's what we had on the train. And we would dig holes in the ground for our elbows and hips. And we slept on the ground for a whole week. And we would go to a place to get a shower, but everything
Mm-hmm.
was outside. That was for a week. And we traveled a whole month by train, going all the way across Canada and then from down to Los Angeles, through Santa Fe, New Mexico, across Arizona, and all the way up, back up to Michigan, Battle Creek, Michigan, where much of the cereal products are made, and then back to
Mm-hmm.
Buffalo. But in between all of that, I would go on week camping trips outside. We had no amenities. We'd have to leave the cabin and go to the outside. And one of the things that I remember was the what we call rookies who said, "Well, I have to use the facilities," and they would go out and come back quickly. And the scoutmaster and others would know that, but he didn't go. He didn't go where they were supposed to go. They were afraid of the darkness, but they
Right.
would go to KP duty, kitchen duty. The next day they had to do a whole lot of work. The other thing I want to mention is that you have to accept the wisdom of those around you. We were out one weekend and it was going to rain, and the scoutmaster said you need to build a trench around your tent, have it go all the way around, then have one to lead right away from the tent. And in our unit, we were very obedient, even submissive, because we believe they knew what they were talking about. And so it
Right. Right.
poured, it rained. I mean, it poured, and the rain didn't even reach us. But then we heard in the middle of the night cries of anguish by the disobedient uh,
Mm.
of the campers. They didn't feel it was necessary to build a trench. They would just go into the tent and sleep. And so the scoutmaster came and said, "I'm sorry, they didn't obey and they're wet. Can they sleep with you?" So I wound up having one of my eighth grade schoolmates sleeping with me because of his disobedience. There is wisdom to be obtained in so many facets of life. So
Right.
many. And so that was one of the early experiences where nature had to be accommodated. And these
Right.
wise women knew how to do that. You see,
Absolutely.
you have to deal with what God presents, but He will give you information as to how to handle your circumstances. You don't build your house on sand. You
True.
see in the city Buffalo, uh,
Mm-hmm.
they learn early. You've got houses that may look bad on the outside, but they're standing because they're built on stone. Many of them have cellars. So when the winds come, the buildings don't blow away. The roof might come off, but not the building, because they're built on solid ground. And
Mm-hmm.
that then gives us a picture of our life. And you were saying these experiences. I looked at how God dealt with things. He says when the volcano comes away, This has to be because the volcano responds to the needs of the earth around it. And so,
Mm-hmm.
after all what seems to be a disaster, there is lush, beautiful vegetation.
Wow.
You can
Right.
check this out. You can check this out. Every time there's a volcano, and it'll take a while, but after that, the land around it is wonderful. You can grow all these crops, and the earth cries out. The earth is alive. So we can't get so
Right.
angry at. And I know we have what we call these climatic changes and what, but we have a God who's able to deal with whatever we're doing. And if the earth needs some revamping, he'll do it. And we just have to accommodate it and sometimes get out of the way. You see, uh, you,
Right.
you can't
Wow.
quarrel. You can't quarrel with the author. You have to hear the author, and then after you have learned some things, then you do what is necessary. Here in the city of Buffalo
Right.
last Christmas, there you couldn't move for
Mm-hmm.
4 days. Wisdom would say,
Wow.
if you can get in your house, stay there. I was out, and I was guided by a truck that wasn't looking really to guide me. I was out for a few minutes and not that far away, but it was zero visibility. The only thing I could do going from the market a few blocks was open up the side window
Mm-hmm.
and perhaps get some measure of where I was going.
Right.
It took
Wow.
me, half an hour just to go a couple of blocks, an hour almost. But he left the driveway open. When I went into the house, I thanked him. I said, even though I was out there and I shouldn't have been, I thanked him for his guidance. And when I got inside, I knew not to go out for 4 days or so. There was no need, you couldn't move. God speaks in so many different ways. So that,
Absolutely.
so you don't have to be religious.
Amazing.
People say you have to be religious. No, he speaks to all. Not
Right.
he
Right.
doesn't care what your religious tag might be. He is to be heard by all, and that's where my authorship comes from. I'm listening to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more, Dr. Carmen. I so love and appreciate how you're able to reflect a small detail in your life and turned out to have that wisdom, gain that wisdom. That is so fascinating to hear. I know that there's really a lot of adventures and experiences that you want to share through this book, but what topic from the book would you like to elaborate upon this time?
Well, I thought about that, and I two things that become one: the
Mm-hmm.
awesomeness of God and His uniqueness, His
Wow.
His singular, His singular uh, divine authority. Uh, there is no one like Him. We use the word Him. There's no one. And the thing is, with all of His authority, all of His uniqueness, being singular, being the only wise God, He's more than generous in sharing His glory with us. And as I say, with us as 7.5 billion people, they're not in obligation to ask for it. He gives his divine uh, abilities, so to speak, in the ways he expresses himself. Now, as a result of that, those who are informed through the Spirit of God will give him obeisance and thanks. It's the idea of thanking God for being so kind and merciful to us. And people really miss out on this privilege because they're looking at it from a myopic point of view. They're not able to see the universality of God. He's over all people. He's God of all, but he's not all the Savior of all because you have to submit. But he's God of all, meaning then that you can look to him and receive these myriad blessings. So in the book, I share, many thoughts about God and how He addresses the situations we're in, how He gives us liberally, as we would ask for wisdom to deal with the various circumstances that we face in life. And
Wow.
every day, if should we awake, it's a day of thanksgiving. There's healing in His hands. And people don't realize it's more than just going to the physician, the earthly physician. God is the great physician, Jesus the Christ. And we are to look to Him for
Mm-hmm.
the all of the blessings of healing, the balm in Gilead.
Wow.
He heals us every day when we change our thinking, when we remove ourselves out of the equation and look to the heavenlies to gain all that we need. He then heals us because we remove all of this responsibility from ourselves and give it all to Him. Then He
Mm-hmm.
will, of course, pass on what we need to know without having us come under a great distressful umbrage. You see,
Right.
this is what I'm looking at, Tricia. The greatness of God. It's man that tries to limit what He. You cannot limit God. That's what I think. That's what I love about Him. You see,
Mm-hmm.
the people are limited more than they should be. You see,
Right.
and
Wow. Wow.
and he then allows us to just take a look at who He is, and then the limitations come off of us, and then we were able to do what might seem impossible because He's doing it. But man is given the obvious, uh,
Mm-hmm.
observance. Can
Right.
this human being actually do such a thing? No, but God through him. And there's so many people who are handicapped, not because of their heritage, not because of where they were born, not because of the financial resources of like thereof. It's because they lack what it is that God would richly grant us, and that is His grace, His mercy, and His wisdom.
Wow. Thank you so much for encouraging us with those words, Dr. Garmon. It's like music to our ears. Now, last question from an objective point of view. Would you purchase this book to be added to your personal library?
Yes, I would purchase the book. I've actually purchased more than I would need, and just because I'm a believer in uh, the works of several authors,
Mm-hmm.
but this particular book, yes, because it's unique in that I have given quite a bit of references out of the Bible, even with my commentary.
Interesting.
My
Mm-hmm.
commentary. And this will allow others to do likewise. And yes,
Wow.
I would, not because I'm the author, but because I've read it. I
Yeah.
have read it, and I believe that putting myself out of the way, if I were not who I am, I would go to uh, Amazon or Barnes and Noble or wherever the book
Right.
is and purchase it. Yes, I would.
Absolutely.
Objectively,
Absolutely.
objectively.
Objectively. Correct. Now, what would you like your readers to learn out from reading this book, Dr. Garmon?
I would want them to look at the book, look through the seasons of life, see where God is present. One of the things that we seem to forget is that God desires that we be pleased, but we have to be pleasing to Him. He's looking for us to gain pleasure in life. I want the readers to read the book and obtain wisdom, and then find peace and pleasure in their own individual lives. Life can, with all of its problems, can be overcome. He that is within us, in us, is greater than he that is in the world. The world cannot block this, the reader who objectively absorbs what it is that one who actually is over the author seeks to present to the reader.
Right. Wow. Thank you so much for all those anointing words, Dr. Garmon. Where can we purchase a copy of your book, by the way?
Yes, this book may be purchased at Barnes and Noble and Amazon. Just click on what needs to be done, and you, you will be able to get this book. And
Perfect.
or somebody might call me, you see, and as well as and if that were the case, certainly if they were out in the Sahara Desert and couldn't get to it, but I could get the book and get it to them. You see,
Perfect.
be,
Wow,
be
that's
no
so
problem.
nice of you.
Be no,
That's so nice of you, Dr. Garman. Thank you so much for being on the show and really, really for encouraging each and everyone who's watching this about your experiences and life wisdom. This is truly an honor to have you on the show. And I'm very, very excited to have you for the upcoming the Festival of Storytellers, which I believe you are all given a platform and an avenue to really share more and elaborate more God's goodness to your life, to your readers out there.
yes, I certainly will, and perhaps at that time I might have more to say about the next book, which
Ooh.
which will have no uh, limitation on its pages because there's a
Mhm.
lot of things I have to say regarding
Interesting, interesting. And
more
we're
the
looking
memoir,
forward to that.
more
Ooh,
the memoir factor. Yeah. Mhm.
wow.
But I
We're going to
appreciate
be
this.
looking.
Yes, yes. I'm saying this so that it's a prophetic word, and in order for things to come, you have to believe that it
Mhm.
might also happen. And I'm in the
Yes,
process, and I'm looking forward to doing that. While I
absolutely.
also continue to read this one, and it will encourage me to go forward and even to expand in a way that I believe the readers will be helped.
Lovely, lovely. That is so good to hear. Again, everyone, the book is available is in Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and definitely you can look forward for Dr. Gentre Garman and the Festival of Storytellers this coming January 22 to February 24. Again, 50 Thoughts for the Day, authored by Gentre Garman, and hopefully to have you enjoy and take pleasure as you watch this video. And thank you so much, Dr. Garman, for being on the show. I appreciate you and thank you so much for all those encouragement. Till next time, okay? Happy
All right, then.
holidays.
Thank you so much for this opportunity to talk
No
with you
problem.
and the audience. Thank you again
Absolutely. Thank you
so
so
much.
much, Dr. Gantre. Enjoy the rest of your day. Bye for now.
Same to you. Have a blessed, peaceful, and pleasurable day.
You too. You too.